Hi everyone, it's Sam, NFTstatistics with your proof daily NFT countdown. Going to talk today about Bored Ape Ordinals taking up the whole Bitcoin blockchain, about the Other D voyage that's happening this weekend, some cool sales by OXDGB, Guido, Disalle, a bunch of other cool stuff. Let's get right into it, starting with a quick market overview. Volumes were down pretty bad. What you can see is we're from this pink line, we're basically at a level that we were at before season 2 of Blur airdrop farming began. So we're really kind of right in that average level, volumes coming off really sharply. What this chart looks at is kind of interesting is that most of the volume right now, I think it's 68% of the volume over the past week, is sellers accepting bids. So when I think of that, I think, well, maybe it's good that volumes are down because a lot of the volume lately has been sellers dumping into bids, getting out of their NFTs. But either way, I think this is kind of an interesting chart. I think this is driven both by negative sentiment, but also by the incentive structure on Blur to put in bids without necessarily buying NFTs. And the way the transactions get done is when people accept those bids. When you look at a few of the projects, some of the higher profile projects, this here is Azuki. That dark blue area is the percentage of volume, which is sellers accepting bids on Blur. And you can see it's over 80% of the trades are that way. So pretty interesting to see that. Prices continue to tumble. I've been saying this for many days in a row. And something was unique today. This was the first day I can ever remember in the 52 shows we've done where every single component of the large cap index was down. Most, the most pain felt in VFriends, Azuki, and Gutter, but really across the board, a lot of a sell-off here. Mid caps down 2%. Did have some strength in Deadfellas, a bit of a rebound in Opepin with weakness in Genesis Creeps and weakness also in Renga. DGods, interestingly, has been on a tear. So I think this is kind of interesting because this DGods are on Solana. So this kind of says that maybe this weakness isn't entirely JPEG driven, also could have a bit to do with the ETH ecosystem, a bit of the airdrop farming, kind of after effects on Blur. What we're seeing at DGods is that the floor price is up about 50% in just the past month alone. They're going to be moving to ETH soon, so some catalysts up ahead for that project. One of the things I wanted to talk about, and I've talked about it before, but dig a little bit deeper into, is I talk about these airdrop farming risks. When one person ends up getting too big of a position, they get a lot of NFTs dumped on them, they put the bids in, and then that position accrues over time. That can create a lot of risk for a project because eventually they normally do tend to sell. We have a little bit of that buildup in Azuki right now. The third largest holder is this wallet right here with 177 Azukis. But what makes this person different from the previous two or the top two is that this person is an airdrop farmer. If you look at the wallet of this person, you can see that what this chart here looks at is the green lines are times they've bought Azukis and the red lines are times they've sold Azukis. And you can see it, they've had a few times where they bought and then sold, then bought, then sold, then bought, then sold. And then kind of the last time they bought, they were never able to sell at a profit. So they just kept buying more and more bids. And right now this wallet is up to 177 Azukis that the wallet owns. So that's a bit of an ominous situation. Now, interestingly, as always, when people get stuck with big positions, instead of selling, sometimes they go and bid because the bid is what creates more of a wall of bidders and gets more people interested. So I don't know, this person here, what this shows is that this person currently does have 8 more bids for more Azukis in. So we'll see. Perhaps this is someone who does want to hold long term or who is fine holding for a while, but we'll see how that one plays out. Projects that have some interesting news. Doodle's Genesis box, you can see, has gone from 0.1 to 0.13, nothing too serious, but a little bit of a rise there. They recently announced that Genesis boxes are going to be opening on March 31st, so that's 1 week from today. So a little bit of positive energy there. Max Payne and friends, we talked about Xcopy tweeting out some teasers. Here you can see that the floor price really fell. Why did the floor price fall? The reason is what Xcopy did was he gave away one NFT to one Max Payne and friends holder. It was a 1 of 1, and we know, an Xcopy 1 of 1's over 355 ETH. Just a couple days ago, we're seeing sales above 200 ETH pretty consistently. Here's the piece. It's called LA Whenever. This was given to one holder. And then on the back of that, once that was over, people thought maybe everyone would get a PFP or something like that. That didn't happen. So you saw the floor price sell off a little bit, but congrats to the person who got that delivered. That's a pretty awesome gift. Art blocks, in terms of art blocks and art trades, not a whole lot of volume here. We're seeing a lot of, art blocks are not on Blur, but we are seeing a lot of people accept bids on art blocks as well. There are only 3 projects that did volume of 10 ETH or more. But looking at all these trades, a 9.1 ETH Chromie Squiggle, that's one of the lowest sales we've had in months for the Squiggles. Contractions by Loey Hallowell, Memories of Chi Lin, and The Harvest also getting some of these bids accepted below where the floor price is. So with art blocks, we're just not seeing the volume and people are getting liquidity where they can. Second story to talk about, Bored Ape Yacht Club Ordinals Soar inscription fees. Inscription fees have basically gone through the roof. What you see here is how much money is being spent inscribing ordinals. And yesterday we had the highest day ever, more than 10 Bitcoin, even more than when ordinals have been the story that's been the most in focus. Now, this is despite the fact that there aren't that many actual ordinals being inscribed. And the reason is that Bored Ape Yacht Club, they're inscribing the entire image pixel for pixel, which is a pretty big image. In the past, they've done like CryptoPunks or CryptoPunks are just 24 by 24 pixels. So you're seeing these really big images being inscribed on the Bitcoin blockchain. And the result is that there are huge fees that have been paid. This is kind of interesting. Since January 2023, when the ordinal process really kind of began, there have been over $3.3 million paid to put ordinals on Bitcoin. And this is from Leonidas, someone who's a big proponent of ordinals and I believe is a big backer of Bored Ape Yacht Club ordinals. He says that of the 466 gigabytes of data that is on the Bitcoin blockchain, over 1 gigabyte is just Bored Ape Yacht Club alone. So this is really taking up a lot of space. Now, what's happening here? You have Bitcoin apes, very similar to Bitcoin punks that are currently being traded, and the floor price is 0.22 ETH. So it's very economical, even with the high inscription prices, because 0.22 ETH, that's a lot of money. It is more than what it costs to inscribe the apes. We're starting to see more and more people who've gone up and inscribed their apes. I think we're at 9,500 out of 10,000 that have already been inscribed, something like that, as the price seems to make a whole lot more sense. You can see here comparing the apes with the punks. The floor price is lower for the apes, but yesterday did do more volume. Not too surprising, as it is a newer project getting a bit more attention right now. Just a little bit about what these things are. What's the business model here? Is this a collection? That's not really how this works. The basic idea is that anyone can inscribe any of the 10,000 punks or the Bored Ape Yacht Club onto Bitcoin. And what these projects do is they find what was the lowest inscription number that inscribed the exact art. Okay, so if someone made one of the early ordinals, one of the first 100 ordinals, a punk, that would be considered that punk according to this collection. So it's really something that's not really owned by anyone. It's just a collection that kind of ring fences the 10,000 earliest Bored Apes and punks that were inscribed on the blockchain. That kind of gives it a bit more provenance. It makes it harder to replicate by someone else who says, no, ours are the real punks on Bitcoin. What they're basically trying to do is say, no, the official one is the first one that got inscribed. Well, I think the way that people make money off this, how the founders make money who run the projects, is the people who promote the projects, make them big, just go and inscribe a ton of them. So then they get this once they're trading. If the price goes up, they own a lot and are able to sell those to other people. I know that's what the team that did Bitcoin Punks did, and I think that's what the team that did Bored Ape Yacht Club did as well. Third story to talk about. Otherside second trip is happening tomorrow. We got the tweet from them a couple days ago. See you there, March 25th at 12 p.m. Pacific time. This is the second trip for Otherside. What are these things? It's basically a chance for Yuga to take people on a journey of what the universe that they're creating with Otherside, like what it looks like, what it feels like, what are the different options of gameplay available. They're building the game in the background and just want to keep people posted, build in public, as they say, and give people a chance to kind of explore the game on their computers. Here are a couple screenshots from the video that they took. In terms of a couple of the details about it, they call the people who are exploring it Voyagers. Basically it's at 12 p.m. Eastern time. Your spot in the queue is based on when you click launch to get on the site. People who own the Yuga assets, I believe the other deeds are prioritized over guests, but if there aren't enough people, then they will allow guests on it. Not everybody who has another deed is guaranteed a spot. If there are more than, too many more people than the server can handle who have other deeds who try to queue up, they won't be able to do it. And the other thing is that if you do participate, the metadata does have a little bit of change in your NFT, kind of as a POAP, like proof that you were there, your metadata in the NFT. Who knows, maybe someday that'll be valuable. Never know how this stuff works. In terms of the avatars, they have they're allowing people with different profile pictures to create avatars. Here you can see it for Garga, the one he's planning to use with his cheetah Bored Ape. And then a bunch of other projects will be supported for those avatars, be it Azuki, Chimpers, Cool Cats, Moonbirds, and a whole lot more. They've also said they're going to be captains, and this is a bit of a competitive game. And these are the captains that they have: Jimmy Wong, Lowbelly, Champton Medici, who I believe is Snoop's son, Bryson. These are the people that were just announced. So that should be fun to see how it goes. Curious to see how that one plays out. Last thing to talk about, 3 quick notable sales. The first is this Yuga Ordinal number 165, sold for 34 ETH. I believe that is the second highest sale that they've had. So nice to see that. This piece, Finest Hour by Guido Disalle, sold for 25 ETH. A bit about Guido, we've highlighted him before. He says his art is the product of one simple rule: make iconic imagery of cool people, places, and things. Here are some of his other top sales. He's had pieces at 55, 50, in the 30s. His last sale, which we highlighted, I believe in January, was sold for 25 ETH. So congrats to him. Congrats to the buyer. 25 ETH is a big sale in this market right now. So nice to see that. And then lastly, this piece is called Backdoor. It's by OXDGB, sold for 7 ETH. OXDGB, as we know, has kind of created this whole universe around surveillance cameras and NFTs and a theft at a gallery. Really interesting stuff. I really like his work. This one sold a little bit lower than some of his recent pieces. He sold one for 13.2, one for 16.8. I had one piece that he traded with Derek Edwards for a squiggle. I think one of the things that's interesting here is he chose to sell this one on Manifold. He did not go on to Foundation, did not go on to Super Rare, which can often kind of serve as a promotion place for your piece, make it a little easier to discover. Also charges 15%. So perhaps that had something to do with why the price was a little bit lower. Interesting to see that, though. Congrats to OXDGB as well as the buyer of this piece. That is all for now. I hope you enjoyed the show. I hope you have a fantastic weekend. If you did like the show, please like it below. We always appreciate it. That helps. Subscribe to the channel. Give us a comment. Tell us what you think. And we'll be back on Monday with another show. Have a great weekend.